Hey guys, good morning.
Hey everybody.
It's Eric and Lauren Eberspacher from Blacktop to Dirt Road. We're just gonna give people a couple minutes to hop on this morning. Come and say hello, grab your coffee. It's rainy here, and so that's why Eric is here with me this morning because, hi Lisa, because he is not out in the field today. And so I asked him to join me for talking about, inviting people over to your house. Another word that we like to use for that is hospitality, just inviting people in. So yesterday, we asked the question, I'm gonna fix that there. We asked the question yesterday on the Facebook page, what holds you back from inviting people over to your house? And we got like a great response on that. Most of you said that you didn't like having people over because your house was messy, because of the clutter, because you were just insecure about that. I found it very interesting. Hi, Leah. I found it very interesting because most of your answers were the same, right? Like a lot of people struggled with
Between
the same
3 and
things.
4 answers, probably.
Yeah, so the first thing, good morning, Carrie. Hi. Hey, Tara. How are you? So a lot of the answers were that the house was messy. The second reason was that people were insecure about what other people might think about their house. Not just the messiness, but maybe the size of it. Maybe if you were insecure about how you decorated your house, things like that. Good morning, Gina.
Or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof, yes. But the other one was that people have general anxiety about other people. Like, some of you just aren't people. And so that causes a lot of anxiety for you when you're wanting to invite people over to your house. Leah, good to see you both. Rain delaying harvest there too. Would you like to touch base on that a little bit? Give people an update where you're at on harvest?
I'd say we're probably about half done. Still have a couple days of soybeans left, and then probably another 2-3 weeks of corn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were going pretty good, and then all of a sudden it started raining. Then we got a couple afternoons in where we'd go late at night, and then the next day it'd be rainy, and then this whole week I think it's going to be rainy.
It's just been choppy. Like, yeah. Harvest has just been choppy this year.
Switching back and forth from soybeans to corn all the time. Corn in the morning, soybeans at night.
It's a crazy life we lead. Macy, I have window air conditioners and an old farmhouse. Fun times. Yeah, so you get it. Hi, Phil. How are you?
Oh, hi.
Okay, so now that some of you have joined us, go ahead and if you have questions or anything that you want to say, hop on and say that. Leah, you haven't started here. Snow in the forecast.
That's always fun.
It's always
Cleaning out a combine of snow is not very fun.
Not something to look forward to.
Did it last year.
Yeah, that's right. We did do that last year, kind of near the end. Okay, so we're going to be talking in 3 parts today about hospitality. The first part is, what does the Bible say about it? The second part is some tangible tips and tricks that you can use in your home with your spouse to encourage you to maybe entertain more or just be bold just to have somebody over. And then the last thing that I'm going to be sharing today is my all-time favorite recipe that I use that's like ride or die. This is the recipe that you want to have if you want to have people over. So we're going to be talking about it in 3 parts like that today. So we wanted to share a couple of stories just to tell you a little bit about the progression of our entertaining in our home or the homes that we've had over the years. So when we first got married, we lived in Kansas City and we were in a Bible study with 4 other couples. None of us had kids at the time, so that was 10 of us. So on Thursday night, was it Thursday nights?
I don't remember.
Thursday nights, we would all get together and whoever was hosting that night would make dinner for everybody. We'd sit around and eat, and then we would have Bible study after that. And so we lived in an apartment.
Can you imagine sitting around a table with no kids anymore?
No, I can't.
Okay, anyway.
Like we would actually sit and eat our food and it would be hot and we'd taste it and it would be quiet.
There would actually be awkward silences.
There would be awkward silence. Yeah. Oh, hi, Katie. How are you? So the table that we have behind us, I don't know if you guys can see it or not. That table right there, that like comfortably seats 5. And that was our very first table that we bought, and we had that in our little apartment in Kansas City. And so there was 10 of us sitting around this little table when we had Bible study at our house. And we were sitting around, one guy that was in our Bible study was huge. Like he was like a big college football player, and he probably took up a third of the table just by himself. And so here's all 10 of us sitting around our little table, and we were cutting our food like this because like we had no elbow room. It was, oh, there we go. It was we were so crammed and so tight, like sardines around that table. But we were so excited to have people over to our little 1-bedroom apartment. It was so fun. I remember then after having Nora, people would come over because, everybody like wants to come and see a baby. So I felt like I had
this
to
was
have...
our second house.
This was like our starter
First
house that we had in Kansas City, our first house. Hi, Kaylee. Hi, Leslie. So I felt like when people came over to see me and see the baby, like our house had to be totally clean. Like I was like anal about it. It made me kind of anxious. I felt like we had to have this like totally put together life, and that just put so much stress on me. And I don't know if you guys feel that way at all, or currently struggle with that, but I was so overwhelmed. Like the thought of having people coming over, and it just really consumed me for a long time. And so that actually broke. That didn't break until we actually moved here, and I chose to open the door for a friend who came over to visit for coffee not long after Anderson was born. I didn't even have a shirt on. I had a bra on, but I had leggings.
You answered the door?
I looked out the window to see who it was first, but I was so desperate at that point. The house, our teeny little apartment, was just a mess. There was dishes everywhere. Again, didn't have a shirt on. And I opened the door and I let her come in. And that was the day that vulnerability broke through for me. Like I was vulnerable enough to like let people in and see my mess. And that completely changed the way that I saw having people over, because it was the most comfortable interaction, even though I didn't have a shirt on, it was the most comfortable interaction that I had had with a friend coming over to my house, and everything was a disaster, but God really used that to soften my heart. So now, we actually host in our house a lot. We have people come and stay with us. We have people over through the week, have people over for dinner, what have you. And we have gotten to a point where we're really comfortable, but it has been something that we have had to work through. We've had to learn how to do together. I know a lot of you said that you struggle because your husbands don't really have an interest in helping with hosting, but we've had to learn that too, that it really does take two to be able to do that. And so we wanted to just kind of give you that background just for us, just to know that we have struggled, and I still struggle with some of that as well, just with being insecure about people coming over and maybe the house not being clean. But again, we have some really tangible things that hopefully will help you. I'm the worst with stress psycho cleaning when we're expecting company. That is so funny that you say that, Katie. So have you guys seen that video online? I'm pretty sure it's a guy, but he's dressed up to be a girl, and he's like, the company is coming, and he's like running around with the vacuum, and he's like just screaming and have you seen that one?
I think I have,
you seen it? It's hysterical. So when you said stress psycho cleaning, that's kind of what I picture you doing, Katie. Sorry. Hi, Ashton. Good morning. Welcome. Thanks for coming, Katie. Yep, that's you. Okay, good. Well, I think that a lot of people are probably in your shoes, Katie, so I hope that you don't feel so alone. So ultimately what we want to get at you guys...
Especially because if you're a perfectionist, you're also a procrastinator. That's usually the two things that go together.
It's usually true. So the thing that we really wanted to just encourage you with today is that inviting people over is not about having it all together. More so, it's about having your heart open to people, welcoming them in a way that says, hey, I love you and I'm glad that you're here. Not constantly apologizing for the mess, not constantly saying, oh gosh, like I'm so sorry that things are so messy, or I'm so sorry that like my house isn't decorated, or there's dirt on the floor. So we really want to be able to encourage you with that today, and Deacon's probably going to join us intermittently. Can you say sorry? Mackenzie, I love having people over, and husband not so much. Yeah, so hopefully this will and be able to maybe even encourage your husband a little bit too, Mackenzie.
Sometimes when the husband and wife have people over, they usually have usually have couples over, and it's hard to have a couple you both really like. I mean,
That's hard.
I mean,
we've struggled with that in the past.
a lot of times, I'm not saying that is with our friends now, but
No,
just like,
not now. But
just
we
in the past, you really like the wife, and then the husband comes over, and we're like, okay,
I have nothing.
what
to
do we
talk
talk about? And
So that's like another really
so
hard thing.
That's a hard thing, or
vice versa.
Vice versa, or if the kids are over, then one of you has to watch the kids, the other one has a conversation. So
It's like a tag team.
So
It's not fun.
if one of you is having more of the conversation, the other one is the other one is probably watching the kids and not having a very good time. That's just how it goes.
That is so true. Do you want me to hold you? Hi. Okay, so we wanted to talk about. Deacon's gonna pick my. Squeeze my nose. So first of all, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about what God's word says. Here, there you go. About hospitality. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to start with the New Testament, or the New Testament, and what that kind of sets up for us. Because really the book of Acts is a great place that gives us kind of a blueprint, not just for the early church, but for what hospitality looks like as well. Megan, that's our problem. The hubbies get to chat and the moms watch kids and have broken conversations. Oh, I totally agree with you on that. The broken conversation thing is the worst. And I think that that's something that actually does hold people back from trying to have people over. So Acts 2:46, if you have your notes or have your Bibles, Acts 2:46 says, every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. So for many of us, I think that the word glad is not a word that we would use to describe having people over. Would you guys agree with that? Like, I am so glad to have people over. I don't think a lot of people say that. I also think that a lot of people struggle with saying, I sincerely am glad to have people over. One of the ways that I look at this verse, and this is just me personally, I look at the word sincere and I think of like a vulnerable heart. So a lot of you have anxiety about having people over because you're like, oh my gosh, like what are people going to think about me? Are people even going to like me? I don't know what to talk about. But to really go into inviting people into your home with a sincere heart, a vulnerable heart, a heart that says, okay, this is me, this is my home, and here I am. How many of you can say that you do that? And don't put up that wall of, okay, I have to have my house look this way and I have to be a certain way. Does that kind of make sense to anybody else? Like you put up that wall of having this is my semi-perfect life and I'm not going to let you see all the messiness. Carissa, when we have people over, I'm all Martha, needing to be a Mary. And I love that you brought that up because good. I think that a lot of us struggle with that. It's like Martha, 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 Martha. And then by the time people actually come over, you're like, I'm too tired to be a Mary. Like, I'm too tired to listen to you. I'm too tired to have a conversation. And I think that that's something that people struggle with. But I think that I had just read them from Acts 2, just about having, not just meeting in the church, but meeting in the homes. And I think that for so many people, we really don't recognize that God created us for relationship in the church and in the home. He created you with a desire to have community, not just with women, but with other families as well, for us to be able to do life together, to be able to encourage one another. And I think sometimes that's a little bit harder for men to do with opening up and being vulnerable with this glad and sincere heart that Acts 2 talks about. Like, do you get nervous when we have people over, or did you struggle with having people over? Probably depends on who it is, right? Like for our Bible study group, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's just normal.
But like other people, like do you get nervous when we have other people over, or did you used to?
Oh,
maybe?
I probably used to. I mean, just when we first got married, probably when I was just out of college, I probably wasn't a very good conversationalist, I would say.
You've grown a lot in that area.
Yeah, but I mean,
I've pushed him in that area.
And knowing how to ask questions about people's lives and finding things that you have in common, or if you don't have something in common, ask them to explain things, or
So learning how to make conversation.
you have to learn and get good at making conversation, whether it be in the working world or.
And I think
or
not just small talk, but genuine conversation.
Yeah.
Genuinely saying like, okay, you're in my home,
Yeah.
and I want to know about you,
Yeah.
and I want to know, what God is doing in your life, or what you enjoy.
And that's a big
doing.
one for Christians, is that when we come together, we do have something in common.
Yep.
The most important thing in common, and that's Jesus and what He's done in our lives. So we do have something to talk about. And men are terrible at this. and I am as guilty as the other one, as
Thank you for your
anybody.
sincere
I'm
heart.
sorry, but like women have no problem being vulnerable. Not no problem.
But we can talk about
But in comparison to guys,
anything, I think.
when
small
in
talk.
comparison to guys,
Yeah.
guys are all like, "Hey, did you watch the football game? Yeah, it was cool."
Or
Awesome.
no, I don't watch football. And then you're like,
and then
oh,
you're like,
crap.
"Oh no, what do I do?" and we'll talk all day, and then our wives will ask us, "What'd you guys talk about?" And we're like, "I don't know,
I don't know.
stuff."
But I think that we all long for meaningful conversation.
We do, yeah, we do.
And so I think that this is why this conversation is really important, because how do we cultivate an environment that says, like, I want to be vulnerable with you, and I want to get to know you, and I think that we could be friends, or let's deepen our friendship. And so I think that that's really important. Okay, so now next, let's talk about the attitude that you have when you have people over. This kind of piggybacks off of the Acts chapter 2 verse that I read. So 1 Peter 4, 8 and 9 says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Is this your attitude when you want to have people over? Do you grumble when people are
Okay,
getting
let's
ready?
be honest. We all grumble
We
when
all
we're cleaning
No,
our house.
I'm saying this to me
I'm just saying.
much as I am to
Yeah.
anybody else. Do you grumble? Because God's word says to offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. And so I think that it is really important that before anybody even walks through your door, that you are choosing to prepare your heart and prepare your home with as little grumbling as possible. I know that that is next to impossible. However, God does tell us in his word here in 1 Peter, like, you want to offer love to somebody, like, you got to do it without grumbling and complaining. Tasha, I always invite people over, but get kind of sad when people don't invite me over so much. Yeah, and that is a really hard...
We've been there.
We've totally been there before, because it's like you give and you give and you give, and then it's like, but nobody wants to invite me. And I think sometimes we always think that it's our problem, like that it's us, that why people aren't inviting over. But I think one of the things we need to recognize, Tisha, is that some people just don't have that gift of inviting people over. A lot of people are really insecure about inviting people over to their home. And so it's actually them and it's not you.
Well, just look at all the
necessarily.
comments you got on your question.
There was over 100 comments about why people didn't want to have people over.
If you struggle with it and you do it, push yourself out of your comfort zone, that doesn't mean the other person's going to be willing to do that as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So Gina, you struggle with conversations. Yeah. As a stay-at-home mom, I feel like your intellectual level has dropped. I can cook. I tell him that all the time. I'm like, I think I might have become a little less smart after staying at home. I think there was a couple of other comments up here. Let's see. Grant and Shelley, invite a good conversational person over with them so they can help carry the conversation. I love that. I think that that's great.
Or your kids are also a good way to break
Kids are also-
the silence or break the awkwardness.
Break the ice. Yeah, a little bit. That's right. Florencia, hi. I'm insecure because most of my church friends have amazing houses and you feel like yours won't be big enough. Yeah, that was a huge complaint. I shouldn't say complaint, but a huge reason why people said, well, I'm just not going to invite people over. I can guarantee you that if you, Florencia, if you are taking these scriptures and you are applying that to your attitude and to how you welcome people into your house, I can almost guarantee you that they're not going to walk away and be like, well, her house was small. I don't really know if I want to go there again.
No one, if they're your friend, is gonna walk away and say, I had a terrible time because their house was small.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's just not.
If your house is small, that if you come at it with a like a gracious attitude, and you feel them or make them feel so warm and comfortable in your house, it doesn't matter if it's
just by your
600
attitude.
square feet or 5,000. It doesn't. Just by you can feel pretty uncomfortable in a big house.
Yeah, we've experienced that before too. But again, we've also gone into small houses like you were talking about, and we have felt so loved and so accepted and so cherished, and just the genuineness of those people's hearts.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, man, I don't want to go back there again because our conversation was good, and they hugged me when I walked through the door, and we ate Cheetos, and it was great. And do you know what I mean, though? It's like...
And how many memories do you have? Okay, think about your past. Think about your life. When was the good memories you have, like with your parents or with your siblings or your friends or whatever? It's always in a tent or always in a cabin or in a van sleeping.
That's because that's where a lot of my memories are. We weren't homeless. We just traveled a lot in our van.
But seriously, I think the closeness actually brings you. This sounds so cliche and stupid.
No, but I know what you're gonna say.
And if you're in a small house and you're really close together, it honestly, I think it almost makes it more intimate and more.
Or when you're sitting around even like a small table together,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, like you're all here and you're all cozy.
And you remember it.
You do. You remember it. And I think that there is something to being close in proximity and looking one another in the eye. I truly feel like that. I truly feel like that can change the tone of a conversation or somebody coming over.
And you don't have to invite 20 people.
Oh, yeah, completely. Well, and
you can.
We have that further on down.
Okay, all right.
So having people over isn't just about having your friends over too. Let me see. Our house is super tiny. Cram them like sardines. I love that, Amy. That's awesome. Jeanette, I don't think your intelligence has changed. Just your focus. I would kind of agree with that, but I don't feel like my intelligence in ways has grown like it used to like consistently grow. Like I'm intelligent about different things now. Like before I had kids, like I was crunching numbers and taking care of people all day, and now I don't crunch numbers.
But you still take care of
But
people.
I still take care of people. It's just in a very different way. Okay, so having people over isn't just about having friends over. It's about having people over who are in need or people who are struggling. Luke 14, 12 through 14, then Jesus said to his host, when you give a luncheon or dinner, do not invite your friends, your brothers or sisters, your relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they may invite you back so that you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of righteousness. So, having said that, it's really easy for us to invite only the people over who we are comfortable with. But I want you to think about this, and you should have an answer. You should have an answer. I'm not going to let you off the hook. Who can you invite over this week who's struggling? Have you ever invited anybody over that's struggling? It's a good question. It's uncomfortable to do that because in light of pain and suffering, you're like, well, I just don't know if I know what to say to that person, or I don't know if I should really do that because maybe that would make them uncomfortable. Even just the fact that you would ask somebody over who's struggling, even if they say no, that person knows that they are thought of and that they are loved. And I think that can go such a long way. I think having someone over who you know maybe even is struggling in the same way as you, maybe have in the past, because you would be able to maybe mentor them or encourage them in what they're struggling with. It's so easy for us just to invite the really easy people over. But
and I have a kind of a thing or a piece of advice for that too. Is if you're having someone over that you have no idea if you're going to be able to hold a conversation, tell them, set a time limit. Say, I want you to come over from 1 to 3, and I have things to do after 3, but from 1 to 3, I want you to come over.
yes,
Because sometimes people are like, I don't know when to leave. I don't know when they're gonna come, or I just don't. If you're a type A person like my wife, you like to know when people are gonna come. You like to know when people are gonna leave, and so that's just a tip. I think I just thought of that.
Yeah, and I think it's different when it's like people who you're really comfortable with. 'Cause
Well,
it's like,
if it's not your friends.
no, yeah, because you can just be like, take your diaper bag and go,
Get outta
like,
here.
go home. Like, I got stuff to do. But when it's other people, yeah, I think that's really good to be able to set that type of limit, especially when it's somebody that, yeah, you're just not.
And then
that
you have a
comfortable.
goal. You're like, okay, I can do this for another hour, or I only have 30 minutes left to do this, or
Yes.
at first.
At first. But then the more that you do it, the more your heart is like, yeah, like I want to have this person over who's having a hard time because I can pour into them. I can maybe encourage them with scripture. I can pray with them when they're in my home. There's nothing harder than feeling like you are not seen in your struggles and in your insecurity. But man, if you can take the time to invite somebody over who you know is having a hard time and remind them, you don't have to have the answers to their problems. You can just say, I love you. Like, I know that you're hurting and God loves you and he sees you. And like, as a woman or as a family, like we want to rally around you and just remind you that you're loved and cared for. So does the Bible talk about husbands being hospitable? Because I think that a lot of the time in our culture especially, and maybe even this is like old, maybe decades ago or whatever, but still I think a lot of people say, it's a woman's job. It's a woman's job to invite people in and to clean and to cook and to entertain and things like that. But God's word actually talks about men, husbands, being hospitable. So Titus 1:8-9 says, rather he, the man, must be hospitable, one who loves what is good, who is self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined. He must hold firmly to the trustworthy message as it has been taught, so that he can encourage others by sound doctrine and refute those who oppose it. So this passage in Titus is actually talking about qualifications for an elder in the church, but it still is talking about a godly, righteous, loving, kind man, which are husbands, men who are following hard after God. So I think that it is so important because when you've said this earlier in the conversation, when we first got married, Eric was like not as like, hey, let's just have everybody over and let's talk and have a conversation. That was more me. I mean, I was definitely more like that. But over time, you have grown into having people over. So is it helpful for me to ask you for help? Like when we're getting ready to have people over, or even if just I'm getting ready to have a friend over?
Yeah, I mean, when we are, it's not probably going to be like the top priority on our thing we want to do.
Yeah.
Which you're having to clean anyway, so it's not like it's what you want to do either.
Yeah.
So if we're having people over, I mean, I think for me, I can kind of pick up when you're stressed and when you kind of give me the look of, hey, let's pick up toys, or, some guys maybe aren't good at that. Or
okay,
they just don't.
From a standpoint of a man who does not help around the house or who doesn't get that cue, what would be helpful for me to do if we're getting ready to have somebody over for dinner, or I'm having Bible study,
Right.
or I'm having a girlfriend over for a play date? What would be helpful for me to ask you to do?
Well, first off, just don't say, just help me. Like, what do do I do? Do I need to be in the kitchen with you, like cutting onions, or
What do I do with my hands?
I mean, but when a wife just says, hey, help me, you're like, okay, what do I do?
Because most of the time men don't know how to help.
And then they're like, how do you not know what to do? I'll just do it. I mean, that's just how a lot of women are.
Yeah.
And then, so I'm going to say
Intentional direction.
well, because you, in our marriage, you take care of our household, so you know what needs to be done.
Yep.
I work outside the house, but I'm also around quite a bit. You know what needs to be done.
I just need to tell you.
And I don't mind I don't mind you telling me what to do on that sense, but it's all in how you say it. If you say, get off your butt and help me clean this room, I'm going to be like, forget it. No, I'm not going to say that to you. I would never do that, but in my mind I would.
Yeah.
But if
You
just,
would do it begrudgingly.
begrudgingly, yes, with a lot of grumbling, right?
And what did we just learn that the Bible said about hospitality? Do it without grumbling or complaining.
Before it gets to the point of where you're like super overwhelmed and ready to blow your top, maybe before that happens, say, hey,
I'm not good at that.
I'm going to be cooking in the kitchen. Would you mind just picking up the toys and
Or watching the kids.
or watching the kids, or just say, a guy likes to be given a task without being like, you need to do this. Belittled, yes.
Yeah, I like that you said
because,
that.
I mean, when you're belittled, that's just something, I mean,
Nobody wants
no
that.
man wants to be belittled.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just part of, I think, a male's nature.
Yeah.
Is,
or even maybe like the night before saying, hey, like I'm having some friends over tomorrow. Can we maybe clean up a little bit tonight?
Yeah, that's
so
a good
that we
idea.
don't have to do
That's
that
a good
tomorrow.
idea.
So like kind of like trying to have those conversations beforehand.
and honestly, the guys are not going to be like, no, I'm not going to help you. I mean, maybe some are, which that's terrible. I hope not.
But if you do it with the
But
right
if you
attitude,
do it with the right attitude and you do it
Makes a
without being
difference.
like so flustered and overwhelmed that you're being really naggy, all I have to say is do it before your top blows off. I mean, that
before your
sounded
top.
kind of bad.
No, but not really. I mean, that's
you want
very true. Jennifer hopped on, and it's everything my husband and I are struggling with. Okay, well, good. Well, I hope that this is helpful for you guys then, Jennifer. And I do hope that if you guys think that way, like if that's something that you and your husband are struggling with, we've had so many couples. We did the Through My Husband's Eyes series this summer. We had so many messages and emails from couples saying, we watched this video together and it was so helpful. So pull this up and watch it again with your husband later on, and maybe it will just be really insightful and helpful in your guys' marriage. So I'm glad that you said that. So some of you might say, well, Lauren, all of those Bible verses are great. And those are fantastic. And I know that I'm supposed to be this way. But I still have a messy house. And I still get anxious about it. And
Or I'm still an introvert.
I'm still an introvert. Hey, Mom. So I think that we've got some tried and true things that are going to help you with feeling more comfortable, not just with entertaining in your home, but just being comfortable in your own home, because I don't think any of us like messiness. A lot of us don't like clutter, and your house doesn't have to be perfect to have people over, but if you would feel better about it being a little bit cleaner before people come over, if that would cause you less anxiety, we have got some really good tips for you with that. So, number one, if you have your pens ready, write these down. Start small. Like, you do not have to throw a Better Homes and Gardens, Chip and Joanna Gain party. Like, put on your favorite pair of leggings and a sweatshirt, get some coffee and Goldfish and Oreos, and invite your friend over. And just enjoy being together. Like, you don't have to just go from 0 to 100 and be like, I'm gonna have 5 families over for dinner.
That's such the
tonight.
American way.
Yes, it's just not feasible unless that is something that you love. Unless you love to have tons of people over. We personally
And what your husband loves.
and what your husband loves. We personally love having lots of people over, but we also love just having small, intimate conversations and settings with people in our home. So just start small. Let's see. Gina, my husband, I will certainly be watching. Oh, good. Awesome. Amber, I feel like when I invite friends over with their children, you need to have all these activities. So, Amber.
Give him a cardboard box.
Cardboard?
I'm just
No, but it's really true. Cardboard box. Or have
And crayons.
Blippi or Mickey Mouse ready, like cartoon, like so that you can have a conversation with your friend. There is nothing wrong with having a cartoon ready for the kids to watch. There just isn't.
There's a lot of people that are going to be like, oh, screen time. Just have it in moderation and use it to your benefit.
I know, and if you want to really be able to have a deep and vulnerable conversation, and Mickey Mouse is the only way that you can do that,
Don't feel guilty. That's stupid.
flip it on. give your children Mickey Mouse, or better yet, give them Blippi. We love them Blippi because Blippi is educational and he's fantastic. But I would also like to just make a note of this. So hospitality in your home is your hospitality. Like, you don't have to do it how your mom does it. You don't have to do it how your sister does it. You don't have to do it like Patty down the street does it. Like, your hospitality is your hospitality. So it doesn't have to look like everybody else's. You do what you're comfortable with in your home, and you do it with the love of Christ. And man, like, that's going to honor the relationships that you have. So that's just kind of a little side note on that. So ask for help. We already talked about this. Ask your husband for help, you guys. Like, it's both of your home. Like, and for him to understand that you need friendship and you need relationship in your home, and that's important to you, tell him that. Be like, this is really important to me that I have this friend over, and can you just please help me with cleaning or watch the kids for me so I can like get some food made or something like that. Like, be vulnerable and honest with your husband and invite him into that with you. There is absolutely nothing wrong in saying, hey, honey, I need some help with this. So cleaning. This is where this gets a little bit nitty gritty, and I hope I don't lose too many of you with this. So at herviewfromhome.com, I have my 30-minute mommy cleaning schedule up there. This is a month-long cleaning schedule for all you lovely type A people like me, or people who are like, I'm just so sick and tired of my house being gross and messy and cluttery that I need help. It will take you more than 30 minutes a day the first month that you do it, but there's also a shortened version of it that is 3 10-minute pickups during the day that will help you declutter your house. And you will be much more eager to invite people over. You'll be much more confident living in your own home, and you're going to want to entertain more. Carissa, yes, I will comment at the very end with all the scriptures that I did again. I usually do that at the end, so thank you for reminding me for that. But I will tell you that cleaning your house, you will feel different if you are consistently trying to get in some sort of groove of cleaning your house or decluttering. I can tell you right now that you could walk through my house and it's not totally picked up, but I wouldn't be embarrassed if you came and saw it. Again, that doesn't mean that I don't have jelly stuck on my floor or fingerprints on the windows, or there's probably some dust bunnies places, but
there's probably some crushed cereal in the carpet.
Probably some crushed cereal in the carpet. Yes, and Amy, I do think that you should completely involve your kids if they're old enough.
Yes.
Have them, even if it's just like putting their stuffed animals on the bed.
Even if they're not old enough.
Yeah, or putting their dirty clothes in the hamper. Like, my 3-year-old can do that. Or no, she's 4 now. Sorry, she just turned 4.
Oh, yeah.
She can put her dirty clothes in the hamper. My kids love to wash our windows. Like, it doesn't look that great, but they love to do it, and they feel like they're helping. So yes, Amy, I'm glad that you brought that up. I think that that's a really good thing to do.
Even though sometimes it takes longer when you have them help, but at least they're helping.
But you're teaching them how to work, and you're teaching them how to care for their things. So it's super important. Number 4, plan a get-together a week in advance. I know that this is really hard for some people because #life and #kids. But if you can try and plan a get-together, even if it's like 3 days beforehand, like, I know that y'all are busy and I know y'all are tired, but if you really are that insecure about your house being messy, you can scrub your toilet, you can vacuum your living room, and like wipe down your counters with 3 days notice. Like, you can do that. It's hard, but if you really are that insecure and you really want to try and make an effort of having people over, and you know that having your house cleaner would make you feel better, you can have time to do those 3 things, because those 3 things make a really big difference. Get rid of the skid marks, make your toilet smell good, sweep and vacuum, and just wipe off your counters. You definitely can do that. You can find the time to do that. And that's not me telling you to pull your big girl panties up and like just get over yourself and do it. That's just me saying, like, you can find time to do that in your schedule. You really can. So flowers and a candle. So these 2 things will make any house better. Would you agree with me on
Definitely.
that? If you have just a little like vase
Or
of
just a
daisies,
candle.
yeah. what you don't like flowers. I love flowers. He doesn't like them. It bothers his allergies sometimes. And he doesn't like to spend money on something that's going to die. So flowers on your table, that just makes your room pretty and they smell good. And then just light a candle before somebody comes over. Those are two really cheap, just really easy ideas that will just brighten up any space. And it will just make you feel better about being in your own home. I know that every time I light a candle or every time I get flowers, it's like my house just feels that much prettier and I feel that much more comfortable and relaxed. So number 6 is pray and meditate on the scriptures that we had before you have somebody over. Like, you're starting to fight your insecurity and your anxiety and your worry about having people over. It all starts before anybody even walks through the door. So let me go ahead. I know, Carissa, you had asked me about the scriptures again. So Acts 2:46 was the first one. 1 Peter 4:8-9. Titus 1:8-9. So those were the 3 scriptures that we had just to really be able to focus on. And as we have been talking this fall just about being desperate for the security of Christ, like when we are secure in him and his calling to be hospitable, when we know that we have been called by God to love other people by inviting them into our home, to having this spirit of vulnerability, that is going to completely change your outlook on bringing people into your house. Knowing that it is a God-given calling and a God-given opportunity to have people into your home and really be an extension of the love of Christ to them, that should change everything for you. That should be the first thing to do that will shift your perspective.
Because it is, this might come across as harsh, and I'm a little more harsh than Lauren is, but like, it is an attribute of a believer in Christ to be hospitable. Mm-hmm. And
no, that's not harsh.
I'm just saying that because people are gonna be like, well, I'm not gifted with that. Well, I wasn't either, and Lauren is a little more gifted in that. It doesn't matter if it's your gift, it matters that you're obedient. And everyone needs to be hospitable in the sense of being able to talk with other people. Mm-hmm. And we get this idea from church that, oh, if it's not my gift, I don't have to do it. That's not true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You still have to strive to love people. Mm-hmm. And one of the best ways to do that is to be hospitable.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's what we're called to be.
And I think that a lot of us think that hospitality should mean that we're just like, hey, like when people come through the door. Because really though, like I think that a lot of people think of that. Like it's welcome here. Okay, so that's totally my personality. But it's not everybody's.
No,
like,
it's not.
I mean, I'll probably, just ask anyone who came to Herview from Homestock this summer about how excited I was when they walked through the door. Oh my goodness, you guys, I wish that we would have had a video camera. I mean, I was screaming and crying and it was awesome. Anyway, so Holly, so you're saying yes, like that's not you. That is not how it has to be, because I'll tell you what, there are people who are just as uncomfortable coming to your house as you are to have them in. And so somebody might not want to be met with confetti and balloons and like some people just might want you to like open the door and be like, oh, hey, it's nice to see you. Come on in.
And that might be more inviting.
And that might be more inviting to them. So you just have to be yourself.
You still have to be a little warm, I would say.
Well, I would say
try to be warm.
But warm doesn't mean like,
No, I'm just saying like
that's my kind of warm, but like Eric would just be more like, hey guys, come on in. Like it's, like you and I are different in that sense too.
Yeah.
So anyway, so you do you, but do it biblically. Right?
That's right.
Okay.
Let Christ change you.
Yes, let Christ change you. Okay, so while you guys are on here, I also I'm going to share with you guys my cinnamon roll recipe. So this is actually up on my blog. It's the best and easiest cinnamon rolls. That's what it's titled. So it's up there if you're not here to write it down, like if you don't have a pen or anything, but I'm just going to go over it really quick. This recipe is great because some of you have said, well, I'm just insecure because I really suck at cooking. This is just another tool that you can have when you're having people over. Ashton, what about when people come and visit but they don't have the best attitude? So that is very much their problem, Ashton.
You can't control their attitude.
You cannot control their attitude. However, hi Bonnie. However, I will say that the way that you continue to treat them while they are in your home, that will have an effect on them whether you see it or not. So your goal, like if they want to leave earlier than what you thought, let them leave. Like there are just some people, either just because of their own personality, or maybe they're just really struggling with something and they just can't get to a good place, and maybe they are rude and don't have a good attitude. You just keep on loving them with the love of Christ. Like Tesha, yes, you show them the light, yes, and you make their day better. Exactly. You just keep on being yourself, and if people do have a problem and their attitude is yucky, like
and a lot of times if their attitude's yucky and they're gonna go off and tell people that, oh, their house is small and wasn't very clean, you know what? You should count that as joy. You just got persecuted because you are a believer in Christ.
And
good job.
But here's the thing, like you cannot control other people's attitudes. Like you just can't. I mean, and that's unfortunate because that does, when you put yourself out there and like make yourself vulnerable, you're like, oh gosh, like that really sucked. Like somebody was just really crappy to me, and like I invited them into my house, and we've had that happen before. But you just have to know that like you just do everything possible to love that person.
And that's what Satan wants.
And
he wants to crush your spirit the first time you have someone over.
Yeah, he really does. He wants you to feel insecure.
He wants you to feel insecure. He wants you to feel terrible, and that is one of his greatest weapons. Is
making you feel
insecure and less of a person, even for, I don't know, just what you have and what you don't, or what you don't have. And all I can say to that is just push through it and try it again.
Yeah. And I will say, I've said this before about different topics, like I am 110% positive that you're not going to be standing before God when you die at the end of your life, and God's going to be like, I really wish you would have had a cleaner house when people came over to hang out. I really
There's nothing
wish.
that's going to matter less than that.
I really wish you had a bigger house to entertain in. No, God is going to be like, man, like, you invited people into your home when it was uncomfortable, and you were an extension of my love. Like, well done. Like, well done for being obedient for me. Well done for loving people in your home. That's what's going to matter in the end. Okay, so cinnamon rolls. I do these cinnamon rolls in my bread machine. I'm kind of old school. I know a lot of people don't have a bread machine. So what you're going to do first, for the actual dough that you're going to make for these cinnamon rolls, best and easiest cinnamon rolls there are, you're going to do 4 cups of flour, 2 eggs, a teaspoon of salt, 1/3 of a cup of sugar, 1/3 of a cup of softened butter, not melted, but just softened, 1/4 cup of warm water, a cup of warm milk, and 1 packet of yeast. The quick rise yeast, it's usually in like a yellow, like a little packet, like a 3-packet little thing, and you just use 1 packet of it. And then what you do is, before you put all of this into your bread machine or into your bowl to mix together, use that 1/4 cup of warm water and put the yeast in there, and it just kind of makes it like all warm and yeasty and whatever. So do that first while you're mixing all of your other ingredients together, and then pour that water and yeast into the bowl or into your bread machine. What you're gonna do, and I actually have step-by-step like pictures and instructions of this on the blog, so that way if you're like, I don't know if this is how it's supposed to look like, you'll know what it's supposed to look like. So I always do mine in the bread machine, and it usually like, it will like knead it for you. But if you don't do it in a bread machine, you're gonna mix all this together and you're gonna knead it for like 10 or 15 minutes. Like it takes a while to knead this dough out, and then you're gonna let it rise for like an hour or an hour and a half. It usually doubles to triple in size for me. So like if it's in the bread machine, you just let it rise in the bread machine, and it gets really big and really puffy. But if not, if you just do it in a bowl, after you've mixed it and kneaded it for a while, just set it like on your stove and cover it with a towel. And an hour and a half later, you'll just go ahead and take that towel back, and it's gonna be really big, and you'll just kind of have to punch it down. So after you do that, you're gonna get, if it's like on your counter or on, like I have like a big Pampered Chef pastry mat that I use all the time, and I swear by that thing. I actually need a new one because I have like a big tear in it. So if anybody wants to get me one of those for Christmas, I would love that. So you go ahead and on your counter or on your pastry mat, you just flour it really well, and you take your dough, your big fluffy dough, and you punch it down, and you take it out and you put it on that mat, that floured mat or your floured surface, and you're gonna roll that out with a rolling pin. And it's, I don't even know how thick you're gonna want to roll it out to, but it's probably, I don't know, it's probably about that thick of dough. But you're gonna do it out into like a rectangle, is basically like a squarish rectangle. This does not have to be perfect, you guys, just so you know. Like it doesn't have to be like a perfect shape, but kind of like a squarish rectangle. So you get it all rolled out, and then what you're gonna do is you're actually gonna melt, like completely melt one stick of butter. And you're just gonna pour that all over your dough and just spread it out with your hands so that there's just butter all over. This is not a healthy recipe, by the way. By the way, these are Eric's very favorite cinnamon rolls. He loves these. We swear by them. This is Eric's mom's recipe. They're delicious. Anyway, so you're gonna have that stick of butter melted, and you're gonna smear it all over that dough. And then you are going to take brown sugar, just a whole bunch of brown sugar. Like, how much is it all together? I think I have it on here. Yeah, 2 cups of brown sugar. 2 cups, and you're just gonna sprinkle that all over the dough with the butter on it. And then you're gonna take cinnamon. I have no idea how much. I just take a bunch of cinnamon and I just do it all over there. And so the dough is gonna be covered with a layer of the butter, then the brown sugar, and then the cinnamon. And then starting closest to you, like on your pastry mat, you're just gonna start to roll that dough. Like you kind of pinch it and tuck it and just roll it. And you're gonna roll it all the way up. Again, I have pictures of this. I'm looking at it right here on my blog. And you're just going to roll. And then when you get to the end, you're actually gonna like pinch the dough together so that it just doesn't come undone. And then what you're gonna do is you'll either take a really sharp knife, or you'll take dental floss. Dental floss is another really good way of doing this. And then you're just gonna cut in like 1-inch strips. So they're about, I don't know, they're about that big, of the dough. And so there'll be a really pretty pinwheel, like you'll see when you cut it, you'll be able to see the pinwheel of that. And then you're just gonna get, I usually use a 9x13 pan, but I also have like a bigger one. It's like an 11x15 pan is usually what it fills up. So I spray that with oil, and then I just line all of those cinnamon rolls in there. And then what you're going to do then is you'll have your pan full, and then I like to let that rise like another 15 or 20 minutes. Like I cover it up with a towel again, and I let that dough, like the actual rolls, rise for another 15 or 20 minutes. While that's going, I go ahead and I preheat the oven. You do it, let me see, 375. So preheat it to 375. Stick your rolls in there after they've risen again. They'll get kind of puffy. And that's only for about like 15 minutes is all that you need to cook them for. They will be rich and bubbly and delicious, and your whole house will just smell amazing. That's another really good thing about these. If you cook them right before you have somebody over, your house just smells amazing. You don't even need a candle because it smells so good. So then with the topping, I guess like the icing for it, I have an icing that I really like, and Eric has one that he really likes. It's usually an argument that we have about which icing to use. So I'm gonna give you Eric's icing that he likes. It's a block of cream cheese, and then it's like 2 to 3 cups of powdered sugar and a little bit of vanilla.
Vanilla. Yeah.
It's been a long video. Vanilla. And you just beat that together, and it's like a real thick, creamy It is really good. I'm not saying I don't like it. I like it. Eric just prefers that one. And then you just smear it all over the rolls. The icing that I like is 2.5 to 3 cups of powdered sugar, 1/4 cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of melted butter, a splash of coffee or syrup. Yep, and salt. And then you just mix it all together, put it on the rolls. So again, it's all on my blog if you want it. The best and easiest cinnamon rolls. This has been like a really long video, guys. Sorry. Thank you to everybody who's like hung in till the end. Do you have anything else to say?
Not really.
I think that we're pretty much done. So I hope that we really wanted this to encourage you to invite people into your home, to become more comfortable with it. Hopefully give you some tips and tricks to inviting people in to make you feel more comfortable. And really just bring God glory by opening up your home to your friends, because it's just a great way to just really be obedient to what He's called us to do. So anyway, hope you guys have a great day. Bye.